2004, one of the most iconic teen comedies of our time was released. Mean Girls, written by Tina Fey, is still just as witty and relevant today as it was 20 years ago. The story follows 16-year-old Cady Heron, who, until the start of the film, was homeschooled in Africa her entire life. Throughout the film, Cady is introduced to American teen culture and girlhood. The story grapples with this idea that we all have the capabilities to be mean girls, so why should we let that destroy us, and why can't we just find peace and harmony amongst one another instead? In 2017, a stage musical adaptation of the film came to Broadway, and in 2024, a movie musical of the stage adaptation was released. The 2024 Mean Girls film has created a lot of chatter amongst fans of the Mean Girls works. Many individuals think that the film was not a proper adaptation of the original film, and others do think that it was. Hello everyone, my name is Bailey. If you are new here, my channel is all things fashion and beauty, and if that is something that interests you, you should definitely subscribe. Here are my honest opinions about the 2024 Mean Girls movie musical, coming from somebody who loves storytelling and the way that it can be portrayed through film, stage, and costume design. I'm putting a quick spoiler disclaimer here. I won't be going in super in depth, but there will be spoilers, so you have been warned. Before watching this film, my expectations were incredibly low. Based on previews, costumes I saw, even hearing some of the songs on social media, I didn't think that this was going to be something that would do the original film justice. And do I think that it did? No, not at all. However, did it heavily exceed my expectations? Yes, it did. I have a lot of thoughts in the film, but I've kind of separated everything into 4 different points. The first one being that I think Angourie Rice's Cady Heron and Bebe Wood's Gretchen Wieners fell incredibly flat. I know that we've all heard our fair share of criticisms towards Angourie Rice's performance as Cady and songs like Stupid with Love and Revenge Party. Her performance in a lot of those songs were very, very disappointing. I think she lacked a lot of general just enthusiasm as an actress. I think that it's very apparent. I don't think that she's a bad actress necessarily. I do think that it was very much a cause of putting her up against fantastic theatrical actresses like Ali Carvalho and Renee Rapp. I don't think that she was done justice in that department. However, I also don't think that she should have been casted to play Cady, knowing that, because there are so many better options that could have done the film a lot more justice than her, in my opinion. I think it is definitely true and obvious to me that Rice does not have a background in theater. Coming from someone who has theater experience myself, I can 100% tell that that is so true. And I think that that is also a huge reason as to why her performance as Cady did fall very flat. In addition to this, there were definitely script and song arrangement and costume factors that went into it. I will say that Cady's character in this never once felt like she was a new homeschooled girl from Africa, experiencing America and girl world for the first time. In fact, I honestly think that if I didn't have any prior knowledge of the Mean Girls franchise, I don't think that I would have remembered that she's from Africa. I actually think that that would have just been completely lost on me. It's not used in the film, and often it's just referenced offhandedly a few times. It's supposed to be the way that she interprets girl world, right? That's how we have Apex Predator, where she's comparing girl world to animals in the wild. The fact that she is from Africa is only used as a reference point a few times, and her transition into the real world isn't genuine. And Cady doesn't seem to have any form of readjustment into her new world, which is crazy to think because the entire point of Cady's beginning character is that she's experiencing this culture shock. Off that, her plastics transition also had so much less of an impact. There wasn't any distinct plastic Cady and regular Cady. There was just like slightly rude Cady with red lipstick and the Cady before, and that was it. The graduality of Cady's plastic transition in the 2004 film really made it so much more believable that Cady was literally just sucked into that world. So the abruptness of the 2024 film made it seem like she was still just pretending for the bit. Stupid with Love was incredibly disappointing. This song was meant to be upbeat and belty because this is Cady's first time experiencing a crush in years. She is giddy and overwhelmed with excitement, and Rice's rendition of the song made me not even believe that Cady felt like she was in love. She had no emotion at all. Quite frankly, I think that if Rice was unable to belt the song, then they just shouldn't have casted her in the role. I think Sabrina Carpenter, for example, would have been a much better choice because she's played Cady on Broadway before, and she's also doing incredible right now. She's having a moment. I think she would have been a fantastic choice to play Cady. Finally, the costumes did disappoint incredibly. Coming from someone who loves the 2004 costumes and thinks that they are some of the best examples of modern costume design in film, I was so disappointed in the costumes in this film. I think that my 2 points on Cady being abruptly plastic and also not really having an adjustment period into her new world are largely because of the poor costuming. Next, Bebe Wood's Gretchen Wieners was such a letdown. I'm someone who loves Gretchen so much, and Wood's portrayal of the role was so disappointing. Now, I will note that this is largely a script and costuming issue. For one, I do think that the decision to cut Gretchen and Karen's parts in Meet the Plastics created a huge void in how we perceive Gretchen specifically. With Karen, I think that Avantika did a fantastic job taking that character and really embodying it, and we understood and had a sense of who she was, but without that opening line and without that pre-context to who Gretchen was as a character, it really left us in the dark for a lot of the events that happened in the film, like What's Wrong With Me, for example. And it really is disappointing because the portrayal of What's Wrong With Me in this film, I think, is the most well done form of that song I have seen ever. I really loved the concept of the song on stage, but it just didn't translate well to me. But in the film, they did such a wonderful job of really understanding and showing that. I thought it was really cool to have Gretchen singing into the music box almost as though she's praying to Regina. I thought that was just amazing. So the fact that first-time viewers who don't understand Gretchen as a character wouldn't reciprocate that is so unfortunate. Another thing that I think Gretchen lacked is her natural cattiness. I really think that it was much needed in the film. In terms of costuming, I don't understand why they made the choice to have Gretchen show her bra, because that's always been strictly a Karen thing. It honestly just created a lot of confusion, especially because Gretchen doesn't really have any authenticity in this film. She's just a kind of a mix of Cady, Karen, and Regina. This isn't to say that Gretchen wouldn't morph or try to do what she could to prove herself to whoever is the queen bee at the time, but even then, in the 2004 film, she wasn't just a carbon copy. She just would do things to serve whoever the queen was. She still had her own personality and character. I think that Bebe Wood had so much potential to make this Gretchen as iconic as the 2004 Gretchen, and it's so unfortunate, but I really think that due to the poor scripting and costume design that she just became forgettable. This point might be controversial, and it might be a hot take, but I'm not afraid to make it because I think that it's objectively just true. The 2024 Regina George is too masculine. There is a certain type of power that comes from Rachel McAdams' Regina George. And I think that that power is her femininity and how she uses it to manipulate. We are never shown that we should fear Regina George or cower at her name in the 2024 film. Rather, we are told that she's bad news and her capabilities are life-ruining by high school standards. One of the few intentional directorial choices that the 2024 film made was to create this purge sound effect around Regina's big moments. So meet the plastics, someone gets hurt, and world burn. Using an external source to show that we should fear Regina made her less powerful. I will say that this isn't the same as like the animals fighting that Cady would occasionally imagine, because that was just her understanding girl world and that was just her making sense of it, and not a directorial choice that was made to show that Regina is the apex predator. I also will note that the choreography in Someone Gets Hurt was absolutely phenomenal, and the concept behind that scene was unlike anything I've seen in a movie musical. I really appreciated how the choreography was supposed to show how Regina is in control. I also don't want that to be confused with my earlier point, as Someone Gets Hurt is a scene that is a lot more concept than reality. Like, the purge sound effect that came in Meet the Plastics and the lights went out and then they came back on and the scene just continued as normal. It just cheapened the scene, but with Someone Gets Hurt being a lot more conceptual, it really enhanced it and it made it just absolutely fantastic. That, I think, was a great example of adding to Regina George's power and just her ability to manipulate. Because I think even in that scene, that's kind of the most feminine that we see her, and how she is not only gaslighting Aaron, but also just how she's treating everyone else and like guilt tripping and just all of that. Like, again, this is largely a scripting issue, but there are so many key moments in the original Mean Girls that show how manipulative Regina is that didn't make it into this film, where there weren't similar examples of it. So, you know, a reference for this is the I Love Your Skirt scene. If you're unfamiliar, Regina sees a girl wearing a skirt, she compliments it, and then whenever the girl walks away, she turns to Cady and says that it's the ugliest skirt she's ever seen. And earlier in the film, Regina had complimented a bracelet of Cady's. And in that moment, Cady's realizing that Regina was actually being fake whenever she was complimenting her bracelet for the first time. Regina is supposed to seem sweet, and she's supposed to have us want to be her friend. If she was just awful all the time, we wouldn't want to be like her, and she wouldn't be desired by everyone realistically. This is a film that is about the power of the feminine mind and how many of the things that we are capable of are much more intimidating than what a man could do in the terms of destruction. Regina George has the most feminine power, and the 2024 Regina George just simply isn't using it. I do think that Renee Rapp was a good Regina, but as I said, making her more masculine takes away from not only her power but also her glamour. Cady even says in the original film that Regina George is like a Barbie doll. She's supposed to be unattainable and desired by her peers. She has good taste and she wouldn't wear anything that looks cheap or that would hinder her image. In fact, the only time that she did in the 2004 film was when she was losing her power, and judging by her style at the end of the film after the conflict resolution happened, she is put together, but her style isn't hyper feminine per se. I actually think that Regina styled herself in a hyper feminine and glamorous manner because she knew that it would give her more leverage and likability amongst her peers. Making her style more masculine is almost another form of making us fear her in her scare factor and not her capability. What I don't think that the people who were working on the film understood was that North Shore wasn't afraid of Regina George because she looked like a mean girl. They were afraid of her because she is a mean girl. Off this, the costume designers made the 2024 plastics trendy. They are supposed to be the trendsetters. They aren't supposed to blend in. If I walked into any fast fashion retailer from 6 months ago to 6 months from now, I would likely be able to find pieces similar to what's in the film. If I walked into any fast fashion retailer at any given point in time, I could find similar pieces to what the 2004 plastics are wearing. The 2024 plastic style has already been dated because it's trendy to the time shortly before it was shot. But the 2004 plastic style, even though it included a lot of early 2000s trendy items like the Juicy Couture tracksuits, it was unique and timeless enough that it didn't date itself. The style is hyper feminine, but it uses pieces that are simultaneously popular and timeless to make it what it is. I think that the film did a fantastic job of showing the graduality in Cady and Regina's costuming to signify what was going on with them in the story. This is my last point, and it's kind of just a general collection of my thoughts. Off my previous point, there are no mean girls in this film. They're just rude. It would have been so much more believable to me if the screenplay still had similar scenes to the original, such as the I love your skirt scene. We aren't given any reason to believe that the plastics could be nice. They're just always rude. There is no initial reason why we should like them at all, honestly. And all of these things combined, I think, are what make this film not for people who are new to Mean Girls, because they won't be able to understand just how well done the original film is. Of course, these are all just my thoughts. There's no actual weight to them. I just thought it would be fun to put my 2 cents in and to discuss what I thought about this video, because I do love the Mean Girls work so much. As always, if you have any other thoughts or ideas, I would love to read them in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.